Okay, hi, I'm Mike, and this is
Tom.
And we are the co-hosts for The Hat and Many Things. Thank you for joining us, whether it's your first time or you've come back for more. Today we're going to be discussing our top 5 films. We've given exactly 10 minutes thought to this, or Tom may have given it more.
There's some of a lunch break.
Yeah. I mean, how often do you watch films, Tom?
That's something that has changed a lot. Like, I watched my most films when I was a teenager and I had a lot more spare time. But I do try and watch films, and if I can't see films, I do try and keep up on what's being released, like general opinion on them. But I won't like intentionally get stuff spoiled unless I know I don't really care about the movie.
And how much of your movie watching is blockbuster season? How much of it is Oscar season?
I've never really thought about splitting it up that way. I mean, I probably watch more blockbusters in the cinema because
the industry does.
Yeah, no, I get that. But I tend, I think I probably watch more of the blockbusters in the cinema because they're big and showy.
So does everyone, mate. It's because they're more fun. They might not be quote unquote better films. They might make it into more of your top 5 or less of your top 5, depending on what kind of person you are. But they make more money because they're more fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I saw Thor yesterday. Thor Ragnarok. It is the first good Thor film. I do recommend people go and see it.
Well, that's high praise because I actually quite like Thor 1. Thor 2, not so much, but...
See, I preferred Thor 2 to Thor 1.
Thor 1, like, I think I was just very steeped in... I just read all the Thor comics kind of in the run-up to it. Right. I was quite hyped about it. I like Chris Hemsworth.
And on the note of Chris Hemsworth, is he smuggling cantaloupes in those arms? Are there watermelons hidden in there? Those things are enormous.
Oh, yeah. I know from the trailer that he gets his top off again, which is, his famous shot. I think he has to do... I mean, that must be in his contract now. He has to do that every movie, just stand around topless for a bit.
Yeah, so I thought Thor 1 was an okay film. I thought Thor 2 was an okay film. Enjoyed it more than Thor 1. It's more of a buddy film. It's quite funny. I thought Ragnarok is, despite being the most sci-fi of the 3...
I heard it was more Guardians of the Galaxy than it had been before.
It is the most mythological as well. It's the one that most feels like a film about Norse gods.
Well, I'm hopefully going to see it at the IMAX on Sunday. That's the plan.
And I mean, Idris Elba comes back for it when he fucking hated being in Thor 1 and 2.
Did he? I didn't know that. I mean, I know a load of people complained that he wasn't a white dude.
It's nothing to do with that. He'd just finished... Was it Mandela that he played? And in an interview, he's comparing. He says, you go on the Thor set, you're wearing a set of plastic armour dangling from some strings and hamming it up. He'll compare that to the experience of something deep and cerebral and playing someone as emotionally complex as Mandela.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of famous actors do these kind of comic movies because they want to have a break and do something a bit silly for a bit. So if you go in with that mindset, you'll enjoy it.
Speaking of, there is a fantastic cameo, and you're going to enjoy it. So you need to talk to me about that after you've seen it.
I mean, are we talking about the Goldblum, or is there another cameo that I...
That's not a cameo. Goldblum's just a character.
Oh, he's the main character. Okay. I mean, I know he's in the trailer, but we've got to love the Goldblum.
He's the Grand Master.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah, no, it's a good film. Do recommend people see it. It's sort of the opposite of Spider-Man Homecoming, and Spider-Man was really down to earth and for a superhero film, and Thor is not. It's also, in my opinion, the first film in which Loki feels like Loki. How did you pick your top 5 now that we've got the most recent movies out of the way?
So I didn't like apply the same factors. I kind of tried to get together a group of roughly 10 movies, and the list was longer than 10, so I've got some honorable
mentions. That's not 5.
No,
you fail.
I got together my top 10, and then I was like, let's order these in a way that makes sense. And I'll probably, when we discuss each one, I'll be like, oh, this is here. Maybe not 5 and 4, but like when I get to number 1, I have a specific justification for why 1 is at 1 over the others. Okay. But in general, I think I just tried to rank them by a mixture of, I know there's nostalgia in some cases. How many times I've watched a movie, would I just happily watch it every weekend if I could? And also movies I think are good. It's a very subjective thing, and I think it's different for each movie. Yeah, the one other thing was I tried to spread across genres. I didn't go, they're not all sci-fi movies, for example. I tried to have 2 from each kind of big genre in my head, and I've probably missed a load of genres that people were like, why did you include this? But,
How many Kevin Smith movies?
There is not a single Kevin Smith movie, I don't think. No. I'm waiting for you to be angry at that.
No. I've got none either.
Oh, okay.
So, I thought about it, and I thought, I had to weigh up 2 things. There is a difference between movies I like and movies that are good.
Yeah.
If you stick your critical hat on, some movies are excellent, but they're not fun.
Right, yep.
Examples, Schindler's List. Another example, good movie that I don't enjoy, Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
I find it a disturbing thing. I don't enjoy watching it. It's deeply unsettling, and it's an artistic masterpiece for that reason. I'm never watching it again.
Fair enough.
But then, similarly, there are movies that I enjoy that are not good movies. There are definitely movies that I enjoy that are, like, I enjoy The Transporter. Would I ever put it on a top movies list? No.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are those movies that are so bad they're good, and then there's those movies that, you know people won't say they're amazing. Like, Big Trouble in Little China just springs to mind there as a kind of, it's a bit of a silly 80s romp.
Oh, I've thought of another good movie I don't enjoy.
Go on then, yeah?
Blade Runner.
Oh, you don't like Blade Runner? Ah, okay. I really liked Blade Runner, and I haven't seen 2049 yet, but I want to.
I've not seen 2049.
Basically, I've heard if you liked the original Blade Runner, you will like 2049. If you didn't like the original Blade Runner, don't waste your money. So,
yeah, no, my opinion on... bear in mind, I like the book To Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. My opinion on Blade Runner is that it's like 2.5 hours of nothing happening.
It is a slow-paced movie. Yeah. And again, there's like 4 versions of it as well, so it gets a bit confusing. I think the final cut is the one that most people agree is the best, though. I don't know which one you've seen.
Yeah, I've seen the director's cut.
I think that might be different to the final cut. That's what I mean. There's so many different... Anyway, which it's better than the original release, watching the director's cut, so yeah. So,
rolling in at number 5, Tom, what do we have?
Are we gonna... Do you want to do, like... But I was gonna be like, number 5.
Oh, are we gonna be husky announcers?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to take it in turns?
Or are we just going to be the lady from Watch Mojo?
Brilliant.
Hi, this is Watch Mojo with our top 5 movies, and coming in at number 5.
I was probably going to go for husky. I mean, I don't know if you ever watched Screw Attack's videos, but that's the kind of thing I have in my head when I do sit here top 10s. Do we want to like start here, retake from there, and just do like number 5?
God damn it, man! Just tell me your 5th film.
Number 5 is not the name of the film. Number 5.
Is it number 9?
Number 5, the original Jurassic Park. So none of this Lost World, none of the new ones. Jurassic Park.
Lost World is fucking terrible.
Lost World.
Sorry, not Lost World. Jurassic World.
Jurassic World. I did not like. Lost World. I would rewatch, but it's clearly not the original.
Jurassic World is terrible.
Yeah, and Jurassic Park 3 was. I think I've watched like half of it. It wasn't good.
Could be worse. Could be Jurassic Park 4, couldn't it?
Is that world?
I don't fucking know. I've lost track.
I think it goes 1, 2, 3. Big
they just
break,
get worse the further
world.
it goes on. Wait till we get to 10. Ooh.
It's a mixture of things. It was ground.
Is it because dinosaurs?
Well, yeah, okay. So big elephant in the room. Well, not big elephant. It's a brontosaurus. Dinosaurs are cool, and even if they may now be scientifically inaccurate dinosaurs, it was just a really cool movie when it came out. I mean, I remember all the hype around it. It came out in 93? Yeah, 93.
I don't remember the hype of that because I was 2.
So it came out in 93, and all I wanted was to go see this movie in the cinema, but obviously being 4, that was kind of not a thing I could go do. So my dad got me like all the cuttings from the newspapers, all the kind of little articles, anything he could that was not like full of terrifying velociraptors. And then I think I probably got to see it when I was like 6, 7. It was shown at Christmas, and I remember watching
terrifying, oversized velociraptor.
And I watched it as a kid. I loved the movie, and I was absolutely shit scared of the velociraptors for months afterwards.
Do you know how they recorded the sound for the velociraptors?
No, I don't think I do, actually.
It is the sound of turtles mating.
That is amazing. I didn't know that before. I got scared by those velociraptors, and it was kind of like the movie I hated to love. Like, I really enjoyed it, but every time I watched it when I was a kid, it scared me. But now I can appreciate it without being scared by the movie. And it led to a lot of silly science discussions with my dad, because, like, trying to explain why velociraptors wouldn't be in the back garden and stuff when I was scared of them. And not actually Jurassic World related, but Lost World related, I remember being like, there's pterodactyls on the island. Can't they just fly to another island? And my dad drew this brilliant diagram of how the pterodactyls glide, and it would slowly crash down until it gets to the other island, and then it would be eaten by the T-Rex that's still on the other island. So, what was your number 5?
At number 5, I have a bit of an outlier.
Yeah.
Bit of almost a guilty pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the best movie. It's not the most popular movie. It's maybe a bit of a cult hit. I have Cruel Intentions.
Oh, yes. That's a good movie.
Although it might be tied with things like Fight Club that could have gone there.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's not... I don't think people are going, that's a terrible movie right now.
But it's not usually good enough to be where it is.
Fair enough.
But I was just thinking about movies that I just really enjoy. And Cruel Intentions is a film that I would show people who haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I would just get it out of the box and be like, ooh, put it on. And I hate rewatching things that I've seen, for the most part.
Yeah.
And this will come up again on my list. I really don't like watching the same thing over and over again because I remember it in detail.
Right.
I usually have to put about 2 years between watching a movie twice.
Wow, okay. Yeah, no, I if I enjoy a movie, I'd probably watch it more regularly than that.
Cannot stand doing that. I always want to watch new things. So, Cruel Intentions, it's got a young Reese Witherspoon, it's got a young Sarah Michelle Gellar. It is the book Dangerous Liaisons for the modern day. It is ever escalating acts of debauchery at other people's expense. People abusing power and privilege and seeing how far they can take it until lines are crossed. And it's just really engrossing. And the characters are really interesting considering that they are generally despicable people. And that's something I've struggled with in TV a lot. I mentioned it in the drama episode. Is that when no one in the show is likable, you can't like the show. That's the problem I've got with things like Sons of Anarchy. But the characters in this manage to be interesting and likable despite being just amoral. Yeah. It's an interesting, fun film with some good romance, some good comedy, and some good shock value at times. It's just a good film that I would show people.
I mean, I think that's a good bar. Like, I don't think there's anything on my list where I wouldn't show people.
Is number 2 not that secret video you made at camp one year with your best friend Ryan?
I don't know any Ryans, so no.
Yeah, that's what you would say.
But yeah, no, I think every single movie on my list, including like the honorable mentions and stuff, I would show to people. But there's a few where I'd be like, you need to be prepared for this. It's this kind of movie. Whereas
Cruel Intentions is a film that I would just throw in someone's face.
Yeah,
I just really enjoy it.
I mean, I think I'd say the same of Jurassic Park. I don't think I'd ever be like, you need to be in the mood for Jurassic Park. But I think that's probably because most people I know really like Jurassic Park.
Whereas Ex Machina, you need to be in the mood for.
Yes, yeah, that's a very much I'm going to sit down and watch a certain type of movie. Yeah.
So, rolling on to our number 4 on our list, Tom, what do you have at number 4?
Number 4. So, if the last one was kind of a I suppose, modern day, but kind of sci-fi, kind of thriller. How do you describe Jurassic Park, actually?
Jurassic Park is almost sci-fi, but not quite.
Yeah.
It's more like fantasy, isn't it? It's an adventure thriller.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a broad enough
It's quite cross-genre, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's kind of... So, going to, like, what I would consider almost the polar opposite in the comedy category. And I think something I probably should have mentioned in number 5 for Jurassic Park. All of my top 5 picks, when I think of them, the music is a big part of them. But there is nothing quite like just... When I see this, I immediately, in my head, start going... Which is, if you recognise that, you'll know it's the Monty Python and the Holy Grail kind of Arthur exploring theme. And yeah, Monty Python and the Holy Grail is the comedy movie I've got in my top 5 because... As comedy movies go, probably the one I've seen the most by a long way. Our family were one of those families who would incessantly quote Monty Python, like to the point where we could have conversations in Monty Python quotes.
Oh god, that sounds awful. I pity your childhood.
It's just, I remember I think my dad slowly weaned me on to Monty Python because obviously it's quite rude. And their other stuff is like 18 rated. And I would probably argue, if I was thinking critically, that Life of Brian is a better movie. But Monty Python and the Holy Grail will always have me laughing.
Well, I got into an argument with my housemate the other day because I don't like The Life of Brian.
What was... And that was he just like, you can't
was the sound of Tom leaving the podcast in disgust.
No, I mean, people like what they like.
I just didn't find it funny. I don't find most of Monty Python funny. Holy Grail is the only one I've seen that I do find funny.
I think for me, that there is some weird madcap stuff. And now at this point, it's hard to kind of put yourself back to when you first saw that. But in a lot of ways, it was my first introduction to that kind of weird British humour we have.
And I'm not the biggest fan of it. I tend to like my humour quite dry.
Yeah. I think you mentioned that in a previous episode as well.
So, rolling in at number 4 for me. In fact, no, finish talking about Monty Python.
I was just going to quickly say, I think the thing with Python is at the time it was kind of groundbreakingly weird, and it underlies a lot of stuff you see now. So even though I've seen more recent stuff that I probably laughed at harder, and I feel like having seen Python at the start gave me that appreciation.
Yeah, Monty Python definitely influential. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it kind of gave me it's like in the way, a similar argument I think has been made with things like Friends, where it kind of gives you that baseline understanding of a certain type of humour. Like, Friends was the first sitcom a lot of people of our generation saw.
Yeah, so once again, Friends, I enjoyed as a kid. My girlfriend was rewatching all of it about 2 years ago, and it was on TV, and God, it was not funny.
See, it's funny, I feel that kind of way about Friends, but I really enjoy Monty Python still. Chandler
and Joey are the only likeable characters in the entire thing. And there's just a really funny... not funny. There's a really unfunny amount of gay jokes in Friends.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a 90s thing. It was acceptable, but still allowed... Acceptable is the wrong word. It was... People were aware that people were gay and people were coming out, but it was still kind of a big deal in the States, at least. And it was still the butt of jokes, which nowadays you're like, yeah.
So, number 4, I have The Dark Knight.
Ooh. I did consider that coming into my top 10 at one point.
I really struggle not to put it in a top 5. It was a toss-up for me between The Dark Knight and Gladiator to go into my top 5. I think The Dark Knight is good enough that I would use the phrase, it is as close to a flawless film as you will find. It is the first time I think that I'd ever left a cinema with absolutely nothing that could have been done better.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I really enjoyed The Dark Knight when I saw it, and I have got it on Blu-ray.
And the first time you watch it as well, the impact is so much stronger. And the twists when, someone's dead and then they turn out to not be dead and it's all a big trap, and you're like, honestly, first time I've ever seen a twist like that and not seen it coming.
Yeah, no, I remember that feeling.
It was all done so well and so somber and so... I mean, come on, it's a film about fucking Batman. It's a film about a psychopathic multimillionaire who punches criminals in the face because he's got unresolved parent issues. And they managed to make it gritty and dark and emotional and full of twists, full of things to actually investigate. It was just amazing. It was a complete achievement. And then The Dark Knight Rises was mediocre.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's often the way where the second in the trilogy is the best. They've hit their stride, but they aren't trying to wrap everything up or do silly endings.
Yeah, no, The Dark Knight was a fucking amazing film. Everything about it, from characters' deaths to characters' fake deaths to the villains. I mean, from the Joker to Harvey, they were both fantastic. Just awesome, incredible film. Amazing soundtrack, amazingly well filmed. Great chase scenes, great action sequences, emotional depth in a superhero film. I mean, the only thing that I would say comes close to it in terms of quality for a superhero film is Logan. And Logan is a film where I actually cried in the cinema.
I think the thing with... I mean, Logan is a very good movie. I think there's a thing where... Firstly, there's that initial impact, but it's also how long does something stand up? And I'm not saying Logan won't, but Logan
The Dark Knight has already proven that it does.
Yeah. So there's a kind of... I struggled to put anything new, very new on my list because of that. It has to have a certain level of longevity before I think, oh yeah, it goes in my top 5.
So, we're on to number 3. We're rocketing through these.
Yeah, it's very fast, this episode. I'm sure we could waffle on more once we've done our 5, though.
Well, I'm sure the honourable mentions is going to be quite a long list.
Yeah, I mean, I could keep adding to that list later.
Like I said, Gladiator didn't make it on. Logan didn't make it on, but they could easily have replaced a similar film in the list.
And I think that's what I meant when I was saying genre. There's certain films fit a certain hole, and there's often a few films of that type, and it's just which one did you prefer out of those. So yeah, my number 3.
Number 3.
Well, let's not go down the rabbit hole of doing that in all.
You sound like
voices.
a fucking horny supervillain. I would like number 3.
You can tell I found that very funny because you got my silly laugh there. Right, my number 3. So another rule I didn't mention earlier when we were talking about picking is I limited myself not only kind of in the genre, but I made a specific point of being I will pick my favourite from a set of films. I won't be the entire trilogy of such and such. I will be which is kind of cheating.
In terms of that rule, I could easily have just gone Lord of the Rings, the entire extended thing.
Yeah.
I don't think individually any one of those films is good enough to make it on there. But as a trilogy, I think they are head and shoulders above everything. Literally everything.
They are. It's a very good trilogy. But yeah, I made a point of being like, I will pick, if I get into a trilogy situation, I will pick one movie from that trilogy, and then I'll have to try and justify myself, and that'll make for an interesting bit of discussion, maybe. So my number 3 is Star Wars. As in, before it was
A New Hope.
Before it was A New Hope, it was just Star Wars.
Mate, don't be a wanker.
No. There's a specific reason for this.
It was Star Wars. It is A New Hope.
But there's a specific reason I put Star Wars on my list as just Star Wars.
Do you have a twirly mustache and a patchwork coat? Are you going full hipster now?
No, because the version I watched repeatedly as a kid was a VHS recording of like BBC, and it was before 97, so it was before we had the remastered editions, and it still just said Star Wars at the front. So I only wrote it down like that so I can mention that specific thing. I was like, I remember watching this really old version of it over and over again.
But it's still the same film.
It's still the same film, yes.
Right. So number 3, we have Star Wars: A New Hope. So nostalgia, obviously.
Yeah, there's some nostalgia in there.
Well, there must be, because that's the only excuse for placing it above Empire.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why I've chosen... Like, that's kind of part of the reason I chose it, is it's interesting to talk about. Don't get me wrong. I think, again, if you put your critical hat on and sit there, Empire is the better movie.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I loved Return of the Jedi the most, but yeah, that was a mistake in hindsight.
I think part of the problem was I had this one VHS of Star Wars, and so if I ever wanted to watch a space movie, that was the one space movie we had. And it's still a good movie. It's a complete story.
Mate, it's the only space movie you needed.
Yeah, it really
You
was.
were too young for Starship Troopers, so...
Well, I mean, I saw Starship Troopers at, like, 12, 13, which is kind of probably
You're
the
like,
right
oh my
point to
god,
see it.
tits.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why everyone our age were watching it at the time. But yeah, no, Star Wars, it's a solid adventure story. It has space wizards with, laser swords, all that kind of stuff that, as a kid, is absolutely amazing. And... as I say, we had this one tape and I watched it over and over again. And I remember specifically going to a friend's house because he had the trilogy on VHS, which was this monstrous box because VHSs are huge. And then we watched like Empire and Return of the Jedi, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then, of course, we got the re-releases in 97, which at 8 was like the best thing. I had everything. I had the Star Wars Pog collection because that was still a thing. It was, I was really into my Star Wars. And while I've always loved Star Trek as well,
it's just not as fun as Star Wars. I'm sorry, it's just not.
They fill different niches, and Star Trek to me is like, I will watch a long series of Star Trek, whereas Star Wars is that I want the big exploding movie. That's what I go for. So I'm a lover of both. I'm not strongly against or for either of them, but yeah, Star Wars holds a place in my heart, and I felt it didn't deserve to be higher than 3.
Oh yeah. Star Wars is not necessarily better than Star Trek, but it is more fun.
But I think you'll find people on the internet will be like, oh, one's better, and I just wanted to head off that I'm not pro one or the other particularly more. They're just different things for me.
On that note, have you seen Fanboys?
Yes, I have.
Fucking brilliant film. Absolutely cracking film. If anyone's not seen it, it's a film about a bunch of young adult males who decide to try and watch The Phantom Menace before it's released. It's full of in-jokes. It's absolutely phenomenal film as they're trying to break into Lucas Mansion. I highly recommend it. And on that note, my number 3 is also a comedy film. So I've not used the comedy film yet. My number 3... Guess my comedy film.
Dungeons and Dragons, the movie. No.
You know they're making a new one?
Yeah, we discussed this last week. Or last time.
Oh, mate.
Joe Manganiello.
Yeah. What a brilliant hunk of man. If I could just pick a man to look like, it would probably be Joe Manganiello. Anyway.
I'm trying to guess now. Comedy movie. I don't think I've watched enough movies with you to be able to guess at all. But I'm going to go Shaun of the Dead.
Nope, it's a little bit light. It's a little bit dark. There's a little bit of romance.
Princess Bride?
You're on the right track, but it's not The Princess Bride. What's the closest thing you can think of to Princess Bride that is not The Princess Bride?
Like a comedy fantasy movie. I mean, I'd say Stardust, but I don't consider that a comedy.
It's Stardust.
Okay. I wouldn't have twigged.
Stardust is a funny film.
Oh, it's a very funny film, but in my head,
It doesn't
sit in comedy. It sits in kind of... Yeah, it's on that...
It's a comedy adventure film.
I love Stardust. That's a great movie.
Yes, so Stardust is a film that I have watched again and again and again, even in short periods. It's so easy to watch. It's so simple. It's so clever in so many ways. Just some of the little ideas. It's just so creative, I think. And it's never going to win any huge Oscars. It's never going to be in most people's top fives. It's never, but it is just one of those films which everybody seems to enjoy.
No, it is. I've not shown it to anyone who hasn't enjoyed it.
And Stardust made it into my list purely on rewatchability. And just the value of enjoying it just as much every time you see it. It never gets old. It never gets boring. And it took the place of my instant gut reaction for favourite comedy film. And it eked out Snatch.
That's also funny, yeah.
Snatch is very British. If anyone's American or from elsewhere in Europe, Snatch is a Guy Ritchie film. It's Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels with more money.
Yeah.
It is so funny. It is the single most quotable film I've ever seen in my life. In the same way that Tom thinks, Monty Python, very quotable. Every line in Snatch is a quotable one-liner. Every single one.
Have you seen the Snatch Star Wars crossover? That's absolutely...
Brick Vader.
Yeah, so good.
Watch your mouth, boy. I'll cut your fucking Jacobs off. Lord Vader. All right, sweetheart.
That's definitely going in the show notes. That is glorious.
It's just a phenomenal film. Both Stardust and Snatch, but I think Snatch is funnier, but I think that Stardust is more heartwarming.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's a nice, easy to watch movie, and I watched it with a group of friends, and I had no idea going in. I didn't know about the Neil Gaiman book, etc., etc. But it just kind of, it won me over with its charm and good use of funny moments. Like they even managed to do a good Ricky Gervais cameo.
And I fucking hate Ricky Gervais.
Yeah,
I hate.
A lot of
Ricky
people don't
Gervais,
like him. So
right, but he was fine in the film. Everything about the film is just enjoyable, and like I said, there's lots of little clever moments in there. And the royal family constantly murdering each other is absolutely hilarious.
That was also the first time I'd seen Mark Strong in anything, and he's amazing.
And then he played the bad guy in everything for 3 years.
Yeah, but what an audition to be a bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, in a short period of time, he was in that. He was in Sherlock. He was in Welcome to the Punch. He was in so many films as just the bad guy, just generic, slightly Middle Eastern looking bad guy.
We need an evil British.
If anyone doesn't know who he is most recently in Kingsman as Merlin.
Yes, he's very good in that as well, and that's a different change of pace for him as well as like a good character.
Yeah, very different role compared to what you used to.
I feel like he's now finally getting some roles that are not just bad guy.
Yeah, just not generic villain. I'm sorry, right, but when they make this new D&D movie, I want Mark Strong to be the bad guy, with Carl Urban as his lieutenant, as is Carl Urban's generic role. Bad guy's lieutenant. It's just Carl Urban's place in cinema.
Number 2. So it's kind of funny because you kind of one of your comments earlier, kind of bit of foreshadowing for this. Again, I was listening to the soundtrack to this and the rest of the trilogy earlier in the week. Guessed him one. But which one did I go for?
The Two Towers.
Yes, of course. So again, this is I was older when The Lord of the Rings came out. I'd read The Lord of the Rings year 6 through 7.
I'll be honest, it should probably be in my top 5 instead of Cruel Intentions. It should be. It wasn't. I regret that decision.
That's fine. We got to talk about more things because we had different lists.
I'm retconning it. It's in my top 5. It's actually number 2. So
I just got the internet in year 7, which was turn of the century. That sounds weird to say, even though it was 17 years ago. I was going into year 7, and I didn't have internet at home. I had internet at school, like the crazy times we lived in.
Had you already read The Lord of the Rings?
My dad read me The Hobbit with all the silly voices, as a good dad does, and I found it. I loved it. And then he told me there was this other book, The Lord of the Rings. I was like, you got to read us that too. Bearing in mind The Hobbit's maybe a few hundred pages, and it took a fair while for him to read it to us over, every night to me and my brother. And he was like, I can't read The Lord of the Rings. It's just too long. And I was like, so devastated. And I tried reading it. And I read...
And you were like, you are a bad father. Read it to me now.
I mean, essentially, that was how it felt. But I tried reading it, and I really loved the bit in the Shire at the start. And then they went off to, before Bree, when they're, in the forest, I was just like, it's too weighty for me. I don't like it.
You shouldn't be having cheese before bed, mate. It gives you nightmares.
I put it down for maybe a year, I think, and then came back to it, between year 6 and year 7, and just read the rest of it. And then when I came into year 7 and they asked me to write a book report, they were like, I was like, oh, I'll do it on Lord of the Rings. It's like, I don't believe you've read it. And then I was like, well, I did. And obviously when I wrote the report, it was obvious that I had read it. But yeah, I was so excited when I heard these movies were coming out. And I was on all of the old school forums, the OneRing.net, all that kind of stuff, like looking up anything I could find out about them. And Fellowship was really good, but Two Towers has the ridiculously good Battle for Helm's Deep. And
yes,
like some of the really good story moments.
I read Lord of the Rings in year 3.
Wow.
Before I'd read The Hobbit. Before The Lord of the Rings, I refused to read fiction. And my teachers were actually quite concerned that I wouldn't read fiction. Thought I'd grow up with a lack of creativity or whatever. I would only read non-fiction. Even good non-fiction and bad non-fiction. I read a lot of things like horrible histories, etc. Until my mum's partner at the time convinced me to try The Lord of the Rings. And I think by the time... What year did the Fellowship come out in?
2002, 3?
Okay, so I was what, 10? 11? No, 11 or 12.
Yeah.
I'd read The Lord of the Rings 6 times by then.
That's dedication. I don't think I've yet read it 6 times. I really like it. I've read it multiple times.
I knew it inside out. I went into the cinema at age 12 knowing that Gandalf, Saruman and Sauron and Radagast were the demigods. I knew all their different names. I probably know more about them than I do now. I knew the differences between the Uruk-hai and the Orcs. I knew everything, man. I was obsessed. When the Two Towers came out, I was given a poster for the Two Towers behind glass with a little note from Ian McKellen. Happy birthday, Michael. Love, Sir Ian McKellen.
That's amazing.
I still have the note. Unfortunately, the poster was torn when my sister had a party and people smashed it to use it to cook coke.
Oh, fun.
But I still got the note. Yeah, I was obsessed. Absolutely obsessed. And as an adult, I've rewatched it so many times, the extended editions. Rewatched it with my girlfriend, and she enjoyed it more when I explained all the nuances to her. That Aragorn is, over 80 years old, that he's part of a different species to everyone else almost, that, all those little things that just add so much to it if you just know the differences, know the subtleties. It's such an amazing world, and they did an absolute masterpiece in turning it into a cinematic achievement. I stopped talking there because I realised I was literally gushing.
I would also gush about it. I mean, I've arranged multiple viewings of the extended edition completely in one day.
It is the only fantasy film of its calibre, even now.
Yeah.
It spawned a couple of fantasy films coming out shortly after it. Solomon Kane, The Hobbit, a couple of others. But none of them were the same quality, and nothing before it was either. Because just the budgets, we've discussed it with drama, the budgets involved in fantasy are absurd. You need to get the accents right, the clothing right, the sets. The budgets are insane for fantasy.
It's amazing how close some of the things came to being like really weird. Like the fact that they offered Gandalf to Sean Connery and he turned it down.
Yeah, that would have been, oh my god, that would have been awful. Do you know why he turned it down?
Because he didn't understand the script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got, it was Ian McKellen, and Christopher Lee was dead pissed off that it wasn't him.
Yeah.
Because Christopher Lee made a point of reading it every single year.
Yeah. The Christopher Lee stories from the set are all excellent as well, like him.
Yeah, the one with the knife in the lungs.
Yeah,
it's like, we want you to. He's going to stab you in the lungs and want you to scream fall off. He's like, no, like why? Because when a man is stabbed in the lungs, he cannot scream. How do you know this? And he walks off.
Yeah.
So I was like, he used to be in the SAS. I'm like, what?
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, and he got to play Saruman, and ultimately I think that him as Saruman and Ian McKellen as Gandalf was the right way round. But I do feel sorry for him that he didn't get the role he wanted.
Yeah, I just can't imagine it any other way than it was. It's one of those films.
It's the only film I can think off the top of my head, really, where Carl Urban doesn't play an evil lieutenant as well. He's Éomer.
Yeah, Judge Dredd is the only one who's not an evil lieutenant that I can think of.
He's an evil lieutenant of the law.
I suppose. And then,
if you tell me Judge Dredd isn't lawful evil, you can get out.
Fair enough. And the Bones in the reboot of Star Trek.
Yes, yeah. And Doom. He was in Doom.
Oh, yes. Yes, he was. That's a bad film. Yeah. The brilliant first-person shooter bit, and then the rest of the movie's a bit trash.
Yes, before The Rock learned how to act.
Yeah. But, But briefly, Two Towers. If I had to pick one of the trilogy, probably my favourite.
So the Two Towers should be my number 2, and it should bump everything else in the list down one. And Cool Intelligence should go down to number 6 or honourable mentions. My number 2 that I do have written down is Warrior.
Warrior. Is
Tom Hardy.
Oh, okay, no. I'm thinking of something. I was thinking of the 13th Warrior, and I was like, that is not a good movie.
That is a very different film.
I mean, it's a fun movie, but it's a bit silly. Yeah, sorry. I don't think I've seen Warrior at all.
So,
gonna have to arrange a viewing for me.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good film. It's a very slow film.
Mm-hmm.
Very slow start. The first 35 minutes or so, to be honest, you'd be forgiven for getting bored and leaving. But like a lot of slow start films, you have to watch it all to appreciate it. Films that I would put in that category are Adventureland, Chasing Amy. These films that have very interesting, complicated characters, but you need to get invested in them for it to mean anything. It's not just here's a character and you like it immediately.
Yeah.
So, Warrior is a film starring Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton as the two main characters. They are two estranged brothers. One left with the father when the parents split up, and one stayed with the mother. They've not seen each other in well over a decade. They both have very different lives, but the one thing they've got in common from when they were younger is they both carried on fighting. So they enter a martial arts tournament, an MMA tournament, with both have very, very compelling reasons to need to win the money.
Right.
And it is a film where right up until the last minute, you want them both to win, and there is no way in which both of them can win. And it's got awesome fight sequences, especially Tom Hardy's, but it's more than a martial arts film. The fight sequences are just icing on a cake. It is a film about people and relationships, and it does such a fucking good job of showing this damaged family. I really recommend it. I really enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I ever would. I thought it was just going to be a generic martial arts flick, but it wasn't. It was so much more. So if you like martial arts films, it's on a must watch list.
Yeah, I've watched martial arts movies. I can't say I don't enjoy them. That's not true. But they're not kind of the thing I first jumped to. Is probably correct. Yeah, like a good martial arts movie. I thought it was a martial arts film,
and it wasn't. It was a drama with martial arts in it.
Well, I need to arrange a trip up to see you at some point anyway, so you can treat me to it.
Somebody wants to play with my big box.
Oh my.
Not a euphemism, people. It's a big box full of games.
Full of gribbly monsters.
Yeah, I had to glue 29 hands onto the Phoenix earlier. Yeah, 3 of them come out of its anus.
Lovely.
So, Kingdom Death, people. Check it out. Good game.
We're bound to mention it in nearly every podcast from now on, I'm sure.
What is your number one?
My number one.
Rolling in at number 1 on Tom's list of tomfoolery.
Well, I think it should be number 1.21 gigawatts. Because my number one pick is Back to the Future.
Oh, it's not. It's not, is it?
It absolutely is.
That should not be anywhere near this list.
Okay, this is exactly why I have to explain this.
Find another podcast partner.
The reason I have to explain it, right, when I was 16 to 18, that kind of age range, I was a bit of an insomniac. And so, especially one summer, it was really bad. I don't have the problem anymore. But at the time, I would stay up at late and watch whatever crap was on TV, basically.
Yeah, crap's the right word.
This was not one of those things that was on. There was a period where I was just watching. I watched a lot of baseball, things like that were on, like 2 a.m. because it was when they were on in America.
Mate, you should have just watched Eurotrash.
I think I probably did watch 1 or 2 episodes of Eurotrash as well because I was up quite late. But that summer, I also bought the Back to the Future trilogy DVDs, and I this is no exaggeration, I watched that trilogy about 35 times that year.
Like, number 1 is a good film. Number 2 is not.
I disagree. 3 is the one for me that I've watched, actually probably more than the others because it was on a lot when I was a kid, and I'm not so much into 3. 2 is very clever in that it's putting itself in the back of the first one, but it's not as good as 1. Like, 1 is the one that set everything up.
Yeah, 1 is a good film. 2, though, so I rewatched it about a year ago with a friend.
Yeah.
God, there was so much nostalgia that I thought it was going to be great because I remembered it being great, and it just wasn't. It's like rewatching Dragon Ball Z as an adult. It's you remember it being awesome, but rewatching it kills it.
You see, I've rewatched it many times as an adult. I went to see. I saw 1 and 2 when they did the re-release. So I now have the Blu-rays as well. It's one of the few that the Lord of the Rings and Back to the Future are the only 2 things where I bought like the complete edition DVD and then bought the complete edition Blu-ray both when they came out, and so I didn't like wait until it was cheaper. I just got it as soon as it came out.
Is it just nostalgia?
There is. I'm of course there's a massive nostalgia thing in there, but Back to the Future is just the original one that has some brilliant 80s music. It's kind of...
Can we go back to the start of this podcast? I can pretend I never heard this.
I can't believe you don't like
It's
Back
an
to the
alright
Future.
film. It shouldn't be anywhere near the top of the list.
But I've told
Obviously,
you
that's
why.
my opinion.
Like,
You're entitled to your opinion.
I've told you why. I've seen it so many times. Like, if rewatchability is the thing that makes a good film, then...
So my number one, I haven't seen anywhere near as many times as you've seen that, but I have seen it probably about 5. My number one is Saving Private Ryan.
Ooh. Yeah. I can see that being someone's number one.
I think that D-Day scene is one of the most iconic scenes in any film ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, I mean, it's not a movie I've watched many times, but that stays with me.
The whole film, just everything about it. The sniper-on-sniper scene.
That's good.
The number of people who die, the sacrifices made to achieve what is perceived as a sort of morale victory, but honestly just traumatizes a man for life. Like, the amount of sacrifice made to achieve something so that they can say they achieved it, and the fact that it is not remotely justified at the cost they spent doing it, the experiences all of these people go through, and the fact that they all feel the conviction that they're doing it, it's just an incredible story that's incredibly well acted and filmed. Yeah, I'm not huge into war films. It's really something special. Saving Private Ryan, it's very long, but and you will get emotionally invested in it. You can't not do. I think the only war film I think that might come close to it is maybe Enemy at the Gates.
Oh yes, that's another good one with some sniper stuff in it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really brings home how fucking grim and horrible the World War II was. And it doesn't, like, paint it in a pretty light. It's not like, oh, look at all these heroes. It is, look at the sacrifice. It's focused on sacrifice instead of heroism. And some people do the same thing, but I think it takes a very delicate thing and puts the right tone on it.
It's like a more up to date version of The Longest Day,
which I don't know of.
The Longest Day is, I think, I'm probably wrong, but like Sean Connery's first big movie that he was in, and he's like absolute bottom billing of the people you've heard of, and it's full of so many famous British and American actors at the time. But it's about like the D-Day landings and things going wrong, and it goes on forever, and it's that same kind of thing, but it's an older movie. It's not as visually stunning. It doesn't hit you quite as much as Saving Private Ryan does, but I think it's similar kind of feeling. Yeah, like not all old war films were all glorification, and that's another one that kind of, I think, tugs at the same kind of feelings as Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, I'd say the other thing that comes close isn't a film, but Band of Brothers, the TV series.
Oh yeah.
Phenomenal piece of work. So that's our top films. On to the honourable mentions. My first honourable mention falls under the rom-com category. I'm a sucker for these.
Right.
It's not good enough to be in the list, despite I probably prefer watching it to some of the things on my list. But it's not as objectively good, if that makes sense. You wouldn't find as much consensus calling it a great film. You wouldn't find as much art or merit in it. It's just something I very much enjoy, and that's definitely maybe.
I have heard of it, but that's about it.
Ryan Reynolds is telling his young daughter the story of the 3 great loves of his life, and she is trying to figure out which one is her mum.
Okay, yeah.
Very, very cute film.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but rom-coms are one of these things where I've been very kind of hit and miss. I've seen like Love Actually and a few others like that, but it's not something I've ever gone out of my way to watch. And
a good rom-com that's in recent years is, I would recommend picking up That Awkward Moment with Zac Efron, Miles Teller, and Michael B. Jordan.
I have honestly not even heard of that film.
Generally speaking, I would watch pretty much anything with Miles Teller in it. His delivery is fantastic. That Awkward Moment is a rom-com centered around 3 guys.
Yeah.
So it's very much a rom-com for guys, but it's very funny. One particular... A part of the film that just stands out for me as funny is Michael B. Jordan comes out of the shower saying, you know, which one of you motherfuckers uses fake tan? Like, I do, why? He drops the towel and goes, because now my junk's like a traffic cone. And they just sit there making jokes about it. It's like, oh man, your dick looks like a sad giraffe. And I just very much enjoyed the film. Other things that have to go in there, you know, Snatch and Gladiator, they're phenomenal. So, one thing I've not listed in my top 5 very much is world cinema. Here's some honourable mentions that are not from Hollywood. Old Boy.
Yes, very good.
Don't go and fucking watch the American version. If you go and watch the American version instead of the Korean version, you honestly deserve a slap around the face. Go watch the Korean version. Old Boy is amazing. On the Korean note, The Good, the Bad, and the Weird.
Yeah. Yeah, when you said Korean stuff, I was like, that is a fun movie. That was one of the first movies I got on Blu-ray because it was just cheap and I had no idea what to expect. And it's so much fun.
Very long, very good homage to the spaghetti western. Very good film. The Raid is Indonesian.
Don't think I've heard of that one.
You've not seen The Raid?
No, don't think so. Doesn't ring any bells.
Tom, we're going to resume recording when you've seen The Raid.
You can't threaten to stop recording whenever I haven't seen anything. You can just show me the things when I can't. It is.
I'm going to get you the trailer, right? We can at least watch the trailer right now. The Raid is one of the best action movies ever made. Do you like explosions and punching?
Yeah.
Right, then The Raid is the movie for you. The Raid 2, right, as well, is also an amazing film, but it's a very different film. The Raid 2 is much more like a undercover cop film.
Yeah.
But The Raid is, Dredd, where they attack the tower.
Yeah, yeah.
The Raid is that, but better. It came out first, Dredd just copied it.
Right, okay.
It is literally, the minute the action kicks off, it does not stop until the conclusion of the film. It is just like a 2-hour action sequence. And it's just so fast-paced and furious. It's fucking brilliant. I would put The Raid as the best action film I've ever seen.
30 Floors of Mayhem. The trailer's actually a really good trailer. It'll be in the show notes, but like, it has the ridiculous big text you kind of get in an American trailer, but it's not an American trailer.
It was a Welsh director.
Oh, really?
Indonesian actors, Indonesian country, Indonesian language, Indonesian martial arts. No idea why Welsh director decided to do it.
There's definitely a lot of shooting. Oh, he's dead. That man had a bucket thrown at his head.
But you see the pace of all these scenes in the trailer. This is the pace of the entire film with no breaks.
That guy brought a knife to a gunfight. That guy brought his fists to a knife fight. Oh, nice explosion. Nice. That looks fun.
That film is honest to God, so good. The Raid 2 is a slower movie with more depth to it, but the Raid 1 is just mind-blowingly fast-paced action. It's so good.
Yeah. No, yeah, that looks cool. We should watch that.
Yeah, in foreign cinema as well, I would put quite a few Studio Ghibli movies.
I did toy with... I wasn't sure which one I would
particularly put in. Spirited Away, I think, is a classic for me.
I think, for me, the one I've most enjoyed is probably Laputa Castle in the Sky, but that's just... I couldn't tell you why I enjoyed that more. I watched Nausicaa Valley of the Wind very recently, and that's good as well.
Akira is a classic, but it's really confusing.
Yeah.
Very confusing film. Warlords. Have you seen Warlords with Jet Li?
No, I haven't.
Oh, Warlords and Red Cliff would be my Chinese
I've got Red Cliff, yeah, Red Cliff is good. I've got the short version of Red Cliff, though. I wasn't.
No, you've got to watch part 1 and part 2. Yeah, you've got to watch part 1 and part 2.
It was cheaper, and I didn't realise at the time, and then I learned after I'd watched it, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, very good movie. It's the most expensive Chinese film ever made, is Red Cliff.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's absolutely ridiculous. For people who aren't aware, Red Cliff is the Battle of Chi Bi, if you've played, what's it called?
Dynasty Warriors.
Dynasty Warriors, yeah. And it's just exactly as absolutely ridiculous as you think that would be on the big screen.
Great film. Warlords is better.
Cool. Well, I'll take that as a good recommendation as well.
Yeah, Warlords is sort of 3 sworn brothers who rise to become warlords. And the tragedy that inevitably befalls. It's a fantastic film. Yeah, those are my obvious world cinema films. I don't think I've seen a ton of European cinema. I've actually not seen Pan's Labyrinth. I've seen Pan's Labyrinth. I enjoyed it, but I've been told it's very much a must-see. Yeah. I mean, I would recommend anyone watches it. European films, Night Watch. Yes, Night Watch. Day Watch was a little sillier, but Night Watch was amazing. The worst thing about having Night Watch on Blu-ray is it doesn't have the amazing subtitles that it had. Oh, the old subtitles. Yeah. That would go all the way around the screen, and when the people shouted, it would come out of their mouth. Yeah, that was so good. Yes, the very Scott Pilgrim precursor. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that was the first sort of horror-themed film to be commercially successful in Russia. I didn't know that, no. Because Russians don't generally like them, because their lives are generally grim enough already without making things scarier. A fair point. Yeah. Same reason that you'll find that Russian humour tends to be very black. Yeah, there's some honourable mentions from around the world there. Can't think of any good indie... So, Charlie Bartlett is a film I very much enjoy in the teen comedy spectrum, with the late Anton Chekhov. Oh, yes, yeah. That's not Chekhov's his name. Chekhov's a character. Yeah, what was his name? Anton Yelkovich? Something like that. Yeah, that was a great film. That's him and Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, yeah.
In Irish, Death of a Superhero, fantastic film.
I've heard
that's got Andy Serkis in it.
Yeah, I've heard that's good. I haven't seen it.
And Cherry Bomb with Rupert Grint.
That's not the one with the car? No.
No, Cherry Bomb is Rupert Grint and the lad that played Nathan in Misfits.
Right, yeah.
Have you seen Misfits?
I've seen enough of Misfits to know who Nathan is, but that's it.
The Irish one, yeah.
Yeah.
Cherry Bomb's a good British film. Or Irish film. Cherry Bomb was a lot fucking darker than I was ready for going in. I thought it was going to be like a sort of teen comedy, and it got quite dark. Cherry Bomb is a film about how a third person can come between two best friends. I don't tend to read reviews for things, unless I'm not sure about them.
No, yeah, that's
and
kind of
I certainly only ever read reviews after I've seen something.
Yes.
Because I like to go into things without having my opinion coloured by someone else's. So if you've not seen any of the films on my list... I'd honestly, it's a shame that you've heard my opinion, but
I imagine people know what they're getting into when they listen to a top 5, though.
Yeah, so I've had arguments with a friend before when we would talk about films we like.
Yeah.
And I would say, oh, it's a great film. And he'd say, that's a terrible film. And I'd be like, oh, it's great, I love it. And then he would use Rotten Tomatoes to prove me wrong and say that it is objectively a bad film because Rotten Tomatoes says so.
It's still a subjective thing, even if it's an aggregate subjective.
Yeah, that its aggregate review score means that the consensus is it is a bad film and therefore it's a bad film. And it used to wind me up no end because I'm like, you know what? There are films that I think are fantastic that have low ratings, and I don't think that people have given them credit or justice. And there are films that I think are terrible that have really high ratings.
Speaking about like people getting like reviews being wrong, essentially, one of my honourable mentions, V for Vendetta, which
great film,
famously had a terrible review from I think it was Empire magazine or Total Film. And about 2 years later, they publish a retraction and a new review, and we're like, "We're so sorry, we don't know why we said this was a bad movie." And I watch that nearly every year. I try to watch it every 5th of November as my bonfire night movie.
And there are films that sometimes people just don't get them on first viewing as well.
Yeah,
there are films that sometimes have more. Like, what was it? Starship Troopers is considered by a lot of people to be a B movie, to just be a cheap, tacky sci-fi. Starship Troopers is an absolutely fantastic look into propaganda.
Yeah. Would you like to know more?
It's a really good film at highlighting how propaganda gets people to do things the government wants them to do.
Yeah, I still rewatch Starship Troopers. Like, I wouldn't put it in my top 10, but it's definitely a movie I rewatch.
I like it a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and unlike Starship Troopers 2, which is atrocious. And I think 3 as well. 3's better than 2, but 2 is bad.
So I think what we should do as well, based on this conversation, is we should add to our potential, list of shows. We should go through Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb's top movies and give our opinions on some of them.
All right, okay. The way you said that made me be like, do you want me to watch 100 movies with you? Because this podcast is going to go on for a long time.
No, not during the podcast. We should watch them and then give our opinion on them. We
No, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
the top 10 movies and the bottom 10 movies as two separate things.
Oh, that'd be a good list. Yeah, I like the sound of that. I'm just going to quickly run through my other honourable mentions. So, like I said at the start to you, I actually did a top 10 and put it into 2 sets of 5. So, just not in my top 5 because I don't think I've seen it enough, even though it's a very good film. And this is one of those ones where it often tops best film lists, but it is a good movie. The Godfather.
I've not seen it.
I really enjoyed it. Like, if you're going to show me some movies, I should bring up, I've got the full Blu-ray set.
Which Godfather? The first one?
The first one. The first one is such a good movie with some, like, brilliant... It's got some brilliant actors in who are, like, at the peak of their kind of power. Some who are just starting off and are still brilliant as well. And it's just so well shot, and it has... The beats are so good. I went in fairly blind, just knowing that people thought it was a good movie, so I really enjoyed that on the first watching. And it's a long movie, but it is a good movie. Number 7 on my list, the ultimate Christmas movie, Die Hard, which I'll always watch. I watch, again, I feel there's a feeling here where they've just kind of got into a thing I watch every year. Die Hard is my wrapping presents movie, and if I don't manage to wrap all my presents in Die Hard, I watch Die Hard 2 and then Die Hard 3. But Die Hard 1 is the one that's the most fun. Number 8, Princess Bride, which we've already discussed.
It's just a fun film. I would put it in the same category as Stardust, but probably rate Stardust higher.
Exactly, yeah. Like, when you said all that about Stardust, I mean, just copy that argument and put Princess Bride where you put Stardust. It's a movie I would happily just watch.
We'll never make it through there alive. Nonsense, you're just saying that because no one's ever done it before.
You've performed one of the 3 great blunders. It's just eminently quotable. Eminently quotable. Number 9, which when you said The Good, the Bad and the Weird, I was like, I also thought about that, because I haven't put any world cinema on my top 10, sadly. But The Good, the Bad.
The Good, the Bad and the Weird.
Sorry, no. So The Good, the Bad and the Weird is a good movie, but I really enjoy The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, which is the movie I put in as number 9. And then at 10 as my kind of horror thriller movie, Alien.
See, I can't put any horror movies in my top 10 movies because I don't enjoy them.
See, I don't consider Alien a horror movie because I kind of feel the same.
That's exactly what it is.
But it is, but it's not like...
It's not a slasher movie.
All the things I don't like about horror movies are not in Alien.
Do you know what my highest rated horror movie is?
No.
Scream.
Yeah. Because it's like taking the piss out of all the tropes.
Yeah, because it is a clever film that analysed its own genre. Also, the first Nightmare on Elm Street's pretty good.
I haven't. Have I seen that? I must have seen it at some point.
The first one's actually quite good.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Alien is just such a good film. It just spends like an hour setting everything up, and all the character interactions are great. It's like, I think that's the thing, like often a horror movie, they're like, here's a group of kind of generic cookie cutter characters.
And if it's the 80s, the one that has the most sex will die first.
Yeah, exactly.
Because AIDS.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, it's set in the 80s and that person's not white, they're dying first. You're like, come on.
Yeah, it's literally that simple.
And the other thing, one of the other great things about Alien was they wrote the script before... They wrote the script basically with not caring about gender, and then they just cast people for the roles. So that's why you end up with a really strong female lead, because they weren't like, oh, we're writing a female lead. They went, we're going to write a lead, and then we've hired this cool female actress to do it, and she's really good. I mean, there's still some kind of slightly 80s things in there, like there's a bit where she's kind of wandering around just in her pants because it was the 80s, but mostly it still stands up today.
Also, in terms of it being very 80s, anything in the 80s had a corporation as the villain.
Yes, very much so.
I call it the RoboCop effect.
Yeah. And also deserves special mention for John Hurt's chestburster scene, which is obviously still famous. And he then parodied in Spaceballs, which is very funny. And then, my final honourable mention, because, as I said, I made like a list of 10 and added on some stuff as honourable mentions. Shaun of the Dead, which
is a fantastic cross-genre movie. It does cross-genre a lot better than most do.
Yeah, and it's a comedy, but it's a zombie movie. And again, like, along with horror, I'm not super into zombie movies, but Shaun of the Dead sends up all those tropes that I had seen. It's very good.
Yes, Shaun of the Dead's a very good movie. I think Hot Fuzz is probably funnier, but Shaun of the Dead is a good movie.
I really love Hot Fuzz as well, and I always struggle on which one I would rank the best out of the two of them. So
I think Shaun of the Dead is a better movie, but I think that Hot Fuzz is a funnier movie.
Okay, yeah, no, I could see that. Like, I know some people who just don't like the kind of action side of Hot Fuzz, and I'm like, that's the whole point. Like, and the whole them watching movies and then like almost recreating them shot for shot, but funnier later on, and that kind of stuff is really good.
To reference the last podcast we did, have you seen the little interview with some of the Game of Thrones cast? And Maisie Williams says that she recognised Rory from somewhere when they're on set and couldn't work out where.
Yarp.
Right. Yeah, and then she got home and she was just like, and then I got looking at my DVDs and I realised that you were in Hot Fuzz. And he just leans in the microphone and goes, yarp.
Nice. Brilliant. And then, you went through a whole list of world cinema, and I feel like I've not seen as much, and that's a bad thing.
I like Chinese epics. I've got a thing for Chinese epics. I really enjoy them.
Yeah. So, we've covered Red Cliff and Good, the Bad, and the Weird already. So those like the Good, the Bad, and the Weird, yes. I find a lot of people haven't heard of or seen. So that one is one I'll often show to people.
Old Boy as well. People should really see Old Boy. So yeah, we've got some movies that we really enjoy there. We've got a wide array of genres, of titles, of eras. George, I think, deserves a shout out as a sort of not a great movie, but a movie I enjoyed greatly. Last Action Hero.
Yes, that's fun.
Really good self-aware film that pokes fun at its own genre. It's an Arnie film, literally an Arnie film, taking the piss out of Arnie films. It's brilliant. So I think that's definitely our top 5. There's a few honourable mentions in there. We're going to put some of those trailers in the show notes. I think we're going to move on to picking the next topic out of a hat now.
Yes, we are. We have music. as our overall
Music.
category. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So I think next week we're going to be talking about the music that we enjoy. Or sorry, in 2 weeks. And next episode we'll be talking about the music that we enjoy, music that we don't enjoy, some of our favourites, some things that maybe we think are overrated or underrated. It's a very broad category.
Well, again, this is one of our introduction topics, so it will be there so we can talk about music more in the future.
And we will try to put in links to as many... We'll try to put in links to as many songs as we can, if there's any music videos or anything out there, so that we can, link you to the correct places to listen to these things.
There's going to be so many show notes.
Excellent. Well, this has been the Hat of Many Things. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for continuing to listen to us.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
I'm Tom, and I need a better computer.
Hat of Many Things. That's not our new jingle. It's just me singing. 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 Jingle. It's just me.